Today's episode takes us to the quiet town of Cedar Grove, Texas, a community known for its conservative values, tight-knit families, and the kind of gossip that spreads like wildfire. Beneath the surface of this seemingly peaceful town, a tangled web of secrets and betrayals would lead to a shocking murder. Michael Warren was a 41-year-old man who lived in Cedar Grove, a small town known for its conservative values and strong community ties. He owned a successful car dealership, Warren Auto Sales, which had been in his family for generations. Michael was a well-respected businessman, known for his honesty and integrity. He was also a deacon at the local Baptist church, deeply involved in community events. On the outside, Michael seemed like the perfect family man, hardworking, kind, and committed to his wife Laura and their daughter Rachel. But beneath this clean-cut image, Michael carried a heavy secret. For years, he struggled with his sexuality, which clashed with the traditional values of his town and his church. This inner turmoil led him to live a double life, often traveling to nearby cities like Austin and Dallas for anonymous encounters with other men. While he remained devoted to his family in many ways, Michael felt emotionally distant, especially as his marriage to Laura had grown cold and loveless. In the years before his death, he struggled to reconcile his true desires with the life he felt obligated to lead. One of his relationships was with Ethan Miller, his daughter Rachel's 18-year-old boyfriend. Ethan was a high school football star, and after Rachel introduced him to the family, Michael had taken him under his wing. He offered guidance, helped him get a job at the dealership, and even provided financial support. But what appeared to be a mentorship was a cover for a secret sexual relationship between Michael and Ethan. As the summer of 2021 approached, Michael's double life began to catch up with him. His daughter Rachel had just graduated from high school and was preparing to attend a local community college. She was excited about her future and planning to marry Ethan that fall. Meanwhile, Michael was growing increasingly anxious about keeping his affair hidden, all while dealing with the tension at home. Rachel, who had always been close with her father, noticed his strange behavior, but had no idea what was really going on. In the days leading up to his death, Michael appeared distracted, his mind clearly on more than just work and family obligations. He began spending more time alone, taking long drives late at night and locking himself in his office at home. Then came the day everything unraveled. On the morning of August 14th, 2021, around 7 a.m., Michael Warren's body was found by his daughter Rachel in the bathroom of their family home. It was a Saturday, and the town of Cedar Grove was quiet. Rachel had woken up early, planning to meet Ethan for breakfast at a local diner. When she knocked on her father's bathroom door and received no answer, she opened it, only to be met with a horrifying sight. Michael was lying on the cold tile floor, a pool of blood surrounding him. The bathroom mirror was splattered, and his handgun lay next to his lifeless hand. Rachel screamed, her phone dropping from her hands as she stood frozen in shock. After a few moments, she ran back to her room, grabbed her phone, and called 911. Her voice trembled as she struggled to explain what she had just seen. First responders arrived at the Warren residence within minutes. The paramedics quickly confirmed what Rachel already knew. Her father was dead. Rachel collapsed on the front porch, sobbing uncontrollably as the reality of the situation sank in. News of Michael's death spread quickly through Cedar Grove. In a town where gossip traveled fast, especially on Facebook and local news outlets, everyone was shocked. Neighbors gathered outside the Warren house, whispering and speculating about what could have happened to the man they all knew as a kind and upstanding citizen. Rachel was taken to the police station shortly after the discovery of her father's body. Still in shock, she struggled to process what was happening. Her mother, Laura, was out of town visiting her sister in Houston and was on her way back, completely unaware of the nightmare awaiting her. The Cedar Grove Police Department arrived at the scene around 7:30 a.m. on August 14th, 2021, less than 30 minutes after Rachel's frantic 911 call. Lead investigator Detective Jake Thompson, a seasoned officer with over 15 years on the force, was known for his methodical approach to crime scenes. The bathroom where Michael was found was small but recently renovated. Blood had pooled around his head, and the handgun, a Smith & Wesson .38, lay on the floor near his right hand. Michael had been shot at close range, with the bullet entering his chest and leaving no chance for survival. Detective Thompson and his team meticulously examined the scene. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, and nothing appeared to be stolen. It didn't seem like a robbery gone wrong, which was rare in a town like Cedar Grove. Thompson noted the position of the gun and Michael's hand, but something about the scene didn't sit right with him. They dusted for fingerprints and examined Michael's phone, suspecting it might hold some crucial secrets. As the investigation continued, the detectives used forensic chemicals to check for any traces of blood that may have been cleaned up elsewhere in the house, but none were found. It was clear Michael had been killed in the bathroom and hadn't been moved. Detective Thompson's instincts told him this was more than just a tragic accident or home invasion. Something much more personal had taken place. The suspect's Rachel Warren, Michael's 18-year-old daughter, was the first person the police questioned. She was still in shock, her hands trembling as she sat in the interview room. Rachel had always been a bright, outgoing girl with a passion for soccer. She had plans to attend community college in the fall and was excited about her future with Ethan. When Detective Thompson began asking about her relationship with her father, Rachel spoke of him as a hard-working man, dedicated to his family and church. But as the conversation continued, she revealed that things had changed recently. Just days before the murder, Rachel had discovered something devastating. She had found sexually explicit messages on Ethan's phone, revealing an affair between her father and her boyfriend. Rachel's discovery had shattered her world. She felt betrayed by both men she loved, and the detectives could see the raw emotion on her face as she spoke. However, despite her pain, Rachel insisted she could never hurt her father, and her alibi was solid. She had spent the night with Ethan at a local ice cream shop, and several witnesses confirmed seeing them there. While Rachel's emotional state pointed to her as a possible suspect, there was no physical evidence linking her to the murder. The investigation deepens. Next on the police's list of suspects was Laura Warren, Michael's 39-year-old wife. Laura had been married to Michael for over 20 years and was well known in Cedar Grove for her active involvement in the church and community events. As a stay-at-home mom, she dedicated much of her time to organizing Bible study groups and volunteering at local charities. Outwardly, Laura seemed to have the perfect life: a loving husband, a bright daughter, and a strong reputation in their tight-knit town. But as the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered cracks in her seemingly perfect marriage. Friends and neighbors described Laura and Michael's relationship as strained. Over the past few years, they had grown distant, with Michael spending more time at work and Laura pouring herself into church activities. Detective Jake Thompson brought Laura in for questioning 2 days after the murder. When she walked into the station, she looked grief-stricken, her eyes red from crying. Dressed simply, Laura appeared exhausted as she sat across from the investigators. At first, Laura was cooperative, answering questions about her marriage and her husband's routine. She admitted that their relationship hadn't been the same for some time. "We were more like roommates," she said quietly, her voice breaking. "I can't remember the last time we were close." However, when the detectives confronted her with the affair between Michael and Ethan, Laura appeared shocked, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She maintained that she had been out of town visiting her sister and had no idea what had transpired in Cedar Grove. Her alibi checked out, but her emotional reaction showed just how deeply the revelation of the affair had affected her. Like Rachel, Laura had a motive: betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. Yet, the lack of physical evidence linking her to the murder left the detectives with more questions than answers. On August 23, 2021, just 2 days after Michael Warren's murder, the detectives received a crucial break in the case. Detective Thompson got a call from the forensics lab. The team had found a key piece of evidence that had been overlooked during the initial search of the house: the fingerprints on the gun. They didn't belong to Laura or Rachel. The prints were a match for Ethan Miller, Rachel's boyfriend. Detective Thompson immediately recalled Ethan's nervous demeanor during the initial interview. Ethan had told police that he had been with Rachel at the ice cream shop, a story corroborated by witnesses and surveillance footage. However, the fact that his prints were on the murder weapon told a different story, one that placed Ethan at the crime scene. The detectives reached out to Ethan, asking him to come in for a second interview. This time, they were prepared to press harder. When Ethan arrived at the Cedar Grove Police Department, the tension was palpable. Dressed in a faded football jersey and jeans, the confident high school football star now looked visibly shaken. His hands fidgeted on the table as Detective Thompson asked him to walk through the night of the murder once again. Ethan repeated the same story. He had been with Rachel, and they had gone to the ice cream shop. But when Detective Thompson confronted him with the evidence of his fingerprints on the gun, Ethan's face turned pale. He stammered, trying to explain how his prints could have ended up on the weapon, but his story quickly began to unravel. Finally, Ethan broke down. In a halting voice, he confessed to his secret relationship with Michael Warren. Their relationship had started out as mentorship, but quickly evolved into something more intense. Ethan felt trapped, torn between his loyalty to Rachel and the manipulative power Michael held over him. "I didn't want any of this," Ethan said, his voice cracking. He insisted that while his relationship with Michael was complicated, he had nothing to do with his murder. Though Ethan's confession was emotional and sincere, the detectives weren't convinced. His prints on the gun placed him at the crime scene, and his relationship with the victim gave him a clear motive. But was he truly the killer? As the investigation unfolded, Detective Thompson and his team pieced together the final pieces of the puzzle. On August 27, 2021, the truth finally came to light. The real killer was none other than Rachel Warren. Rachel had been the last person anyone expected to commit such a heinous act. To the outside world, she was a driven young woman with a passion for soccer and a bright future ahead of her. But beneath her calm exterior, she had been harboring an overwhelming storm of anger and betrayal. It was Laura who inadvertently provided the police with the crucial detail that pointed to her daughter. During a conversation with the detectives, Laura revealed that just days before the murder, Rachel had discovered the explicit messages between her father and Ethan. This revelation gave Rachel both the motive and the means to commit the crime. The police re-examined Rachel's alibi. While she claimed to have been at the ice cream shop with Ethan, a closer look at the surveillance footage revealed that the timestamps didn't match her initial timeline. Further forensic evidence linked her to the scene, and the police had their answer. On the night of August 27th, officers arrived at the Warren family home. The quiet neighborhood buzzed with curiosity as flashing lights illuminated the streets. Detective Thompson knocked on the door, and Laura answered, visibly shaken. Behind her stood Rachel, her face blank and expressionless. "Rachel Warren, you're under arrest for the murder of Michael Warren," Detective Thompson said calmly, reading her rights. Rachel showed no sign of surprise. She remained eerily calm, as if she had already accepted her fate. She complied with the arrest without resistance, and as she was handcuffed and led to the police cruiser, Laura collapsed onto the front porch, sobbing uncontrollably. The truth had shattered the Warren family, and the close-knit town of Cedar Grove would never be the same again. Rachel Warren's trial began on August 31, 2022, in Cedar Grove, Texas. The courtroom was packed with community members, reporters from local news outlets, and members of the Warren family. The trial quickly became a focal point of local attention, as the shocking details of the crime unraveled in court. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Michael Granger, argued that Rachel had acted out of pure rage and jealousy after discovering the affair between her father and Ethan. The key evidence, the murder weapon with her fingerprints, and the timeline that debunked her alibi, sealed the case. Rachel's defense attorney, Lula Ray McDonald, a seasoned lawyer known for taking difficult cases, argued that Rachel's actions stemmed from emotional distress. She asked the jury to consider Rachel's age and emotional state at the time of the crime, pointing out that Rachel had no prior criminal record and had been a loving daughter before the affair was revealed. On September 10, 2022, the jury returned a verdict of guilty of second-degree murder. Rachel was sentenced to 25 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. For the Warren family, the trial marked the end of a devastating chapter. Rachel's conviction brought some closure, but it also left deep wounds that would take years to heal. The deepest wounds are those inflicted by our loved ones. When a heart is broken by betrayal, the only thing that remains is the pain that echoes through every thought and action. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? Who do you believe is most at fault? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more mysterious cases. Stay cautious, and remember, the darkest secrets are often hidden behind the brightest smiles.